Today's Star Wars Sunday is about Maz Kanata. She has lived about 1,000 years and she has a definitely interesting life. So listen, sit back, and listen to the life of Maz Kanata. Born over a millennium before the conflict between the First Order and the Resistance, Maz Kanata was a Force-sensitive female who learned to live and thrive in the criminal underworld of the galaxy. She was 4 feet 1 inches tall, brown eyes, wispy hair, burnt orange skin, and her face was wrinkled by centuries of hearty laughter. Living on her homeworld, the planet Takodana, Kanata resided in a lakeside castle which was home to the ancient protocol droid ME-8D9 named Emmy. The castle was a battleground between ancient Jedi and Sith, and with time, Emmy was rumored to have started out with the Jedi Order. 1,000 years before the First Order Resistance conflict, Kanata became reputed as a pirate queen, giving credits, equipment, and connections to young smugglers, often allowing them a day in her home for free or a long-term stay for rent. Relatively late during Kanata's stay on Takodana, she married, and her husband gifted her a statue in her image. The statue remained at the castle until the time of the First Order Resistance conflict, although the marriage did not last. As a poet and painter, Kanata took delight in all forms of art, so she offered board to traveling musicians in exchange for their performances. She also hired a majordoma who oversaw the castle's activities, and a kitchen crew headed by the chef Strono Tuggs, who stayed with Kanata's castle for centuries. Unlike her chef, however, Kanata spent centuries of her life traveling the galaxy, collecting antiques and other treasures. She kept her collection of countless trinkets in the storehouses and vaults of her castle, and she protected items that spoke to her through the Force, believing the relics from the past could impact the future. Despite the castle's age, it was modernized with sensor arrays and communications gear that allowed its owner to stay connected with the rest of the galaxy. Kanata enjoyed the technological contrast between her castle and the surrounding forest, and she viewed it as a manifestation of a cosmic balance. Towers of the castle also held prayer flags hung by deep space explorers, and the entrance to Kanata's castle was adorned with various flags and banners which represented hundreds of cities, civilizations, and guilds. Kanata's connection to the Force acquainted her with members of the Jedi Order and protected her from danger. But following Darth Sidious's rise to power, the formation of the Galactic Empire, and the execution of all Jedi, Kanata kept her abilities a secret. Kanata's voice was heard by Ezra Bridger in 1BBY during his mission to a place that existed between time and space. Shortly after the Battle of Yavin, Kanata discovered that the Empire had been collecting an unsettling amount of information on her. To prevent them from learning too much, she hired a mercenary via hologram to strike selected Imperial targets on 6 worlds: Tatooine, Danaron, Urkit, Hoth, Yavin 4, and her home of Takodana. The mercenary was successful in completing Kanata's objectives, so she rewarded the gunman by employing him as a saboteur to work for them. In 4ABY, sometime before the climatic Battle of Endor, Kanata traveled to Ord Mantell, where she reunited with Chewbacca and helped Leia Organa to infiltrate into Jabba's palace to rescue Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt by suggesting she disguise herself as the bounty hunter Bush. After Sidious was killed by former Jedi Anakin Skywalker during the Battle of Endor, Kanata felt again comfortable sharing her foreign sensitivity. Not long after the Battle of Endor, Maz once more made acquaintance of Han Solo, serving him Parkland slings and admonishing him for not bringing Chewbacca. Correctly guessing that he was there for something, she interrogated him and was told that he was meeting an Imperial defector, regarding information that would help him free the Wookiees on Kashyyyk, who were still suffering from under Imperial rule. Warning Solo of dire consequences should he bring the Empire's attention to her doorstep, Maz pointed him in the direction of the crowd. Unfortunately, the Empire did indeed arrive on Takodana, looking for their pilfered information, and Maz immediately assumed Solo was responsible, reminding him of her one absolute rule. She later contacted him for further tongue-lashing when Imperial air reinforcements, consisting of a light cruiser, multiple TIE fighters, appeared over the lake, ordering him to clean up his mess, though assuring Chewbacca that she didn't blame him, and then to leave once the Imperials were dealt with. At some point in their travels, Kanata acquired Skywalker's lightsaber, which was constructed by Anakin and later wielded by Luke. Knowing of the lightsaber's greatness, Kanata stored the weapon in an ancient wood curio box, along with a 4,000-year-old hyperspace sextant, a fusion cutter head, and a deuterium power cell. 30 years after the Battle of Endor, Kanata was visited by Solo and an old friend of hers, whom she had not seen in 25 years. When Solo entered the castle, Kanata greeted him by shouting his name, temporarily halting the tavern's activity. Kanata approached Solo and inquired about the absence of Chewbacca. They explained that Chewbacca was making repairs to the starship Millennium Falcon. Assuming that Solo needed desperate help with something, Kanata led the group to a table to eat and discuss their dilemma. Eventually, the First Order arrives and levels Maz's castle. Despite the Resistance's arrival and the retreat of the First Order's forces, Finn was unable to prevent Rey from being captive from Kylo Ren. In the battle's aftermath, Kanata spoke with BB-8, telling the droid that although the First Order took Rey, they could not give up hope, and the Resistance needed the Astromech's help. Kanata then walked to Finn, joking that she had some cleaning up to do. Looking up at Finn, Kanata smiled with satisfaction, noting that she no longer saw the eyes of a coward, but the eyes of a warrior. After the destruction of her castle, Maz resumed her life of adventure, whilst the Resistance continued their struggle against the First Order. At a later point, while the First Order was tracking the Resistance fleet, Finn contacts Maz, who was unable to help them personally as she was involved in what she referred to as a union dispute, actually a firefight, the details of which were something they did not want to know. By that point, Kanata had already endured 67 injuries, from which 22 were considered life-threatening. Having gone through a bunch of treatments over a millennium life, she still remained on her feet nevertheless. However, she was able to recommend a master codebreaker, whom she knew was capable of cracking anything, pointing the Finn and Rose in the right direction of Quinto Bight, a luxury city resort, and Maz told them that the codebreaker could be identified by a red flower lapel pin before cutting off transmission. And just a note, while living on Tatooine, Anakin Skywalker was known to have acquired a small statue of Maz from a passing trader, and it was present in his home when Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn came to Tatooine during the invasion of Naboo in 32 BBY. I hope that you enjoyed today's Star Wars Sunday on Maz Kanata. Join us next week for another episode. Have a great day.